Greetings everybody on this Thursday of this week of devotions looking at forgiveness. My name is Ray. I'm a member of Andover Baptist Church. On Monday we looked at how we are adopted into God's family. Tuesday we said that when we've been forgiven much we can love much. And yesterday we stated that God expects us to forgive. I want to look at two scriptures quickly from the New Testament. The first is from Luke's Gospel, and it's chapter 6 and verses 35 and 36. Be merciful, Jesus said, just as your Father is merciful. Love your enemies, do good to them, and lend to them without expecting to get anything back. Then your reward will be great, and you will be sons of the Most High, because he is kind to the ungrateful and wicked. Be merciful just as your Father is merciful. And the other one I'd like to look at is from the book of Ephesians, which is a book written, or a letter written, by Paul to the church at Ephesus. And in chapter 4 and verses 30, 31 and 32, he writes, do not grieve the Holy Spirit of God, with whom you are sealed for the day of redemption. Get rid of all bitterness, rage and anger, brawling and slander, along with every form of malice. Be kind and compassionate to one another, forgiving each other, just as Christ has forgiven you. Now let's be honest, forgiveness is not always easy. It can take a period of time. I said yesterday that I would share with you my journey of forgiveness of my dad. And it's something I struggled to do, because of my treatment that I received as a child. As a child, my dad bullied me and often used a long bamboo, about 5 foot in length, to punish me. Nothing I did was good enough. I would never amount to anything. At 11, I came home to find that my mother had left home. She took my sister with her. I didn't know she was going. I just came back to an empty house. She'd gone. Even as an adult, the rule of my dad was, if you live under my roof, you will follow my rules. As you can imagine, this left me very hurt. A very, very insecure person. I found it very difficult to make friends. When I left home, my father was not happy because I believed that God had told me to leave home. I was told that if I did go, not to darken his doorstep again. It was my stepmom, a few years later, who brought about a reconciliation between my father and myself. She refused to marry him unless he had reconciliation with me, unless he accepted me back into his house. My journey then was just tolerating my father. It came to a place where I had genuinely forgiven him, but it took a couple of decades to achieve. For many years, as I said, I tolerated my father. Saw him, spoke with him. It was Joyce, his new wife, that helped me cope. The Lord convinced me that I needed to forgive my dad. So I asked him to help me forgive him. But nothing really changed. I just thought I had done enough. I realised after a few years that I needed to put my will into the forgiveness. And so I took the first step to give him a surface forgiveness. I was still wary of him and really just tolerated him. This continued for a couple more years. I had children. Did not want them to deny them the opportunity to know their granddad. Further conviction caused me to actively become involved with my dad rather than just tolerate him, but I still avoided any pain from the memories. I did not realise it, but the Lord showed me that I was trying to prove to my dad that I could be significant. My attempts involved me believing that doing things correctly was more important than the relationships. And unfortunately, I hurt many other people doing this. I eventually realised that I had to face the pain and be emotionally honest with myself and with God. It wasn't easy, but it did bring about a far deeper place of forgiveness to my dad. As a result of this, God brought about a deep healing of my emotions. As I forgave, I was able to receive more of God's love, which enabled me to go into a deeper forgiveness of my dad. I came to a place where I knew that as far as God was concerned, I was significant, loved, and accepted. A few years ago, being in that place with God enabled me to be able to turn around to my dad and tell him genuinely that I loved him. When I did, he went quiet for a few moments. Maybe a couple, 2 to 3 minutes. Then he said, "And I love you." I then realised that my dad had not been told that he was loved much in his life. I later learned that my dad had not had an easy upbringing himself, not received much affection as a child. But the thing that I realised most is that relationships are far more important in God's economy than being right. I can still talk about this now. Before I couldn't. It was too painful. But I bless God that His grace came in when I set my will to let go of the hurt, the damage, and if I'm honest, the bitterness that I felt towards my dad. I hope this will help some of you. We have a great God, a wonderful God, and I hope you will join me tomorrow. God bless.